Welcome to this episode of Intellectual Catholicism. Today I'm here to talk about the future of the channel. And so let me begin with just the big news that's going to impact the future of the channel, which is that I was accepted into Harvard University for my graduate studies in New Testament and early Christianity. I'll be going through their divinity school in the Master of Theological Studies program. So there's the big news. Going to Harvard, studying the New Testament. Let's talk about the impact now that this has on the channel. So the first thing is that in order to pay for living in Cambridge, Massachusetts, I had to get another job. And this other job basically made writing the book that I was going to do on the papacy impossible. I called Scott Hahn about a month ago, and I told him, hey, I don't think I'm able to finish the book anymore because I got into Harvard and I have to get another job in order to pay for living in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And so, Dr. Hahn was very compassionate. He understood. And so I apologize for anybody who is excited about that new book, but I can't manage it anymore. I think what's more feasible for me to do is, even with this other job that I have now, what I could do is I could manage to do podcasts and YouTube videos still. And I even might try to do that more than what I've been usually doing. And the reason why I say that is because, it takes a lot of time to write a book, but it's a bit easier to just make a PowerPoint presentation, practice it, do the video. You can usually get that done in like less than a day. Or, if you want to do it well, maybe you need 2 or 3 days to prepare and then get ready. And so, for example, one of the big projects that I'm preparing for is the response to Gavin Ortland's icon veneration objections. And I'll be doing that on the 12th of May on Reason and Theology, in person, live in Michael's studio. And so that's going to be a big project, and I want to have time to be able to do that. And so I can't really manage a book. And then I have my job as a theology instructor, my other job right now with a corporation, and then doing this basically part-time, the podcast. I need to manage what I'm going to do. And so it makes more sense to stick to the podcast, the other job, and the theology instructor job, and that's it. So that's the impact, right? I needed to get a new job. That might change maybe how much time I have on the channel. I want to focus more on the channel, but we'll see how that goes. And then I had to drop the book that I was working on. And the other thing is just very humbly, I just ask that, one, thank you to the patrons who are supporting me on Patreon. It really does mean a lot, and it really does help. In order to survive in Cambridge, Massachusetts, though, I'm going to need, more patrons and more help. And so if you're willing, on my website, I don't have a tier system. So just whatever you can contribute, even if it's just $1, even if it's just $5 a month, all of that is appreciated, because my whole policy with Patreon is just, a free will donation. So whatever you can, however much you can manage. I'm not asking you to sustain me full time because I have other jobs that I can do. But anything that you can contribute does mean a lot to me as I'm preparing to go forward. Now, there are some questions that you might have then about why I chose Harvard, right? So if I had to give a reason for why I chose Harvard, I would give several. So the first is there were actual particular scholars that I wanted to study under, especially scholars who specialized in Jewish perspectives on early Christianity. And so they are experts in their field on Second Temple, Old Testament Judaism, and they were able to look into how this impacted early Christianity. And so I went and applied because there were scholars there that I actually wanted to study under. So think about basically me being Brant Petrie, but going to Harvard, right? That's kind of how I see myself right now, in that direction, trying to really uncover the Jewish roots of Christianity, hopefully with these really great scholars. The second thing is, with the Divinity School, I have access to all of Harvard's campus. And so if I wanted to take a class in the Kennedy School of Government, I could do that. If I wanted to take a class on Jewish law at Harvard Law School, then I could do that. And I actually looked and I saw on the course schedule that they had Jewish law and Halakha classes at the law school. And so I was thinking to myself, like, where else in the world am I going to be able to study Jewish law at Harvard Law School? Or what other time in my life, I should say, will I have the opportunity to study Jewish law at Harvard Law School? And so that was just a huge opportunity for me to kind of have access to all the other graduate programs at Harvard and study under them, because my interests are very interdisciplinary. So, I've used things like constitutional law, jurisprudence or legal philosophy, and other things like interpretive philosophy to help me apply those insights into Catholic apologetics. And so I thought, well, if I have access to the whole campus and all these diverse offerings, then why wouldn't I take those opportunities? The third thing I'll say that finally sealed the deal was actually visiting Harvard's campus. So, one interesting thing was when I was on the plane flight into Boston, I was seated next to a future, or hopefully a potential future classmate of mine. I think she's still deciding. And she's a Jewish Catholic. And so we were able to talk about her experience with Judaism, her experience with Catholicism, and it was a wonderful, beautiful conversation. In the future, if she ever does join the school, then maybe I can interview her on the channel to talk about her kind of perspective on theology. She wanted to do research into a spirituality of food from a Jewish and Catholic perspective. And so I thought, that's really cool, actually. So that experience already kind of, I guess, touched something in my heart because I want to really reach out to, the Jewish community and also the Jewish Catholic community because I think there's so much beauty, there's so much life, and I think it's really important for us as Catholics to be sensitive to the Jewish reality of the Scriptures or the New Testament and the reality of the historic relationship between the Church and the Jewish people. So that was one thing. The other thing too is that after I left the Dominicans, I felt for a while kind of confused about, what am I going to do with my life, right? What's the next path? I know that I'm going to be doing the YouTube channel and apologetics because that's what I love. I love, making video and content for you. But I thought, but what am I going to do with my life? And there were times where I kind of fell into a kind of despair or question, just what's going on? Where am I going? And when I was on Harvard's campus and I just looked around at everybody, the different halls, the different, all the students that were there was something in me that felt alive again. There was something in me that felt excited and ready for life. And, when I was in high school, I remembered, I was a big dreamer. I had all these ambitions and ideas. And then, things happened, life happened, and I kind of thought, oh, well, I need to be more realistic. But then when I was on Harvard's campus, I kind of felt in a way it was God saying, like, no, Suan, you still have the right to dream big. You still have the right to follow, if you will, that childlike wonder and amazement within you, that ambition that's good, and do so with me, walk with me when you're here. And so I thought about, Jesus coming to Harvard with me and helping me through my classes and as I kind of study because my undergraduate training was in philosophy. Now I'm going to New Testament studies. So that's a whole different world in a way. And so imagining Jesus there with me as I'm dreaming big, as he is there with me, encouraging me, I thought that was a very powerful meditation. And I felt for the first time in a while, just really, I don't know if I want to say hope or just the right to dream again. I think that's the best way to put it, the right to dream again. And so it meant a lot for me to actually be on the campus. Those are some of the reasons why I'm going to Harvard. There's also the impacts that I talked about in the video. I had to get another job to pay for Cambridge, Massachusetts. I had to drop the book. My time on the podcast, I want to give more time to it, and that's what I'm hoping for, but we'll see how that all turns out with me having basically, well, if you count this as a job, the podcast, like 3 jobs at once, so we'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, so for those of you who are followers of the channel, who support me, who are subscribers or even on Patreon, thank you so much. But really, if you could maybe just give a Patreon donation, that would mean the world to me. Of course, it's not necessary. I'm still going to be producing content. I still love what I do. But I just want you to know that, living in Cambridge, Massachusetts, it's going to be a huge financial investment. But I'm hoping that ultimately the investment that I make going into the divinity school, going to Harvard, is ultimately going to glorify Christ and the church. And I mean, that's really why I want to go into New Testament studies. It's not because I want the big bucks, because from what I've been told by New Testament scholars, there's like basically no jobs in the field and it doesn't pay much. But I mean, I'm not going in for the money. I'm going in because it means so much to me to study the Lord, to study the scriptures. And so, if that's a cause that you'd like to support me on, then please, check out the Patreon. Thank you so much.